I'm sitting in the corner of the gym on the floor next to the squat rack, watching my two friends work through a set of squats I'm supposed to be a part of. Once again, I can't catch my breath after my set, so I have to take a set off. The pain of not being good enough sits heavily on my shoulders. One of those friends is a guy named Chris. While I'm sitting there gasping, we get to talking about life. Chris knows that I love Jesus, so he asked me a question about God's love. I honestly couldn't tell you what the question was anymore, because as I'm trying to speak between desperate gulps of air, Chris stops me mid-sentence and says, "Man, your faith inspires me." It catches me off guard because I haven't said anything profound. I'm just a guy on the floor who can't breathe. Sitting on that floor, frustrated with my body, that weight of not being good enough wasn't anything new to me. It was the same frustration I had been carrying for 6 years, because this wasn't the first time that my body had taken something from me. I grew up a baseball player, and I don't mean that baseball was a way that I passed time. I mean that it was my plan for life. If you asked me who I was, the answer was Christian baseball player. At the time, I thought the order was accurate, God first before baseball. But if I'm honest, based on how much each of them filled my calendar, my thoughts, and my identity, baseball probably came first. I had a real problem with not making time to read the Bible. In turn, I didn't have as deep of a relationship with Christ as I thought I did. Then, at the end of college, as some of you may know, my body started making the decision for me that baseball was going to be done. I was embarrassed to be the only one on the field who would pass out from breathing problems, or stand there scratching as soon as I got sweaty, or throw up from a pretty simple workout. My career didn't end suddenly with some big injury, but it slowly faded until it wore me down enough to have to call it my senior year. At that point, I didn't really know what to believe about myself. I knew that I could have been a baseball player, and it hurt too badly to watch or even talk about the game. I directed a lot of the blame for that on my college coach for not playing me more, and my body for not keeping up with how hard I was willing to work. Why couldn't I have just breathed better and been able to work harder? 2 years after my career ended, I got one of the coolest opportunities of my life. Clubhouse seats at Coors Field, right behind home plate on Mother's Day. It was a once-in-a-lifetime seat, but I couldn't fully enjoy it because the dream I had buried was as close as it had ever been, right in front of me. I stepped out to go to the bathroom after the 5th inning and walked right past the Rockies clubhouse on the way, and Mike Moustakis walked by. This is a man who I've watched on TV for 13 years, and I've always seen as an absolute monster of a man. But I looked at him, eye to eye, and I realized in that moment that my size was not what was holding me back. Then the game ended, and as Chloe and I were leaving, we passed all the baseball wives standing outside the locker room with their kids waiting for their husbands, and a whole life that was never going to happen flashed before my teary eyes. Me stepping through that locker room door, my wife waiting on the other side of it. For the year after that, I mostly just tried not to think about it. I filled the void with the gym, or I avoided baseball altogether, telling myself that there wasn't a piece of me missing because I had Christ. But I wasn't being honest with myself about how I was actually feeling. Anytime somebody found out that I played and asked me about it, I relived that Coors Field day all over again. The frustration at my coach, the confusion with my breathing, me picturing myself on a field that I would never play on. Which brings me back to the corner of that gym, about a year later. Desperate for air, frustrated at my body yet again, trying just to give Chris an answer about God's love with whatever breath that I can. That's when Chris says, "Man, your faith inspires me." He must catch the confusion on my face because he gives me a second before he explains, "Brother, you're gasping for air, not even able to do your next set of squats, sitting in the corner of this gym, trying to catch your breath. But with the little breath you do have, you're trying to tell me about God." That says a lot. It hits me in that moment. This breathing thing, the skin thing that's always embarrassed me so much, the things that I've always blamed for my inability to work as hard as I wanted, the same things I'm so frustrated with in this moment for keeping me out of that set of squats. That isn't what Chris sees. It isn't what God sees either. God sees me gasping for air and sees an opportunity to help people. While I'm embarrassed, God sees a moment to show His strength in my weakness. See, the main weakness I had always seen in my physical life was the main thing that God used to show my friend what faith looked like. That day mostly changed things for me. I only say mostly because I still get frustrated with my body sometimes. I haven't given up on healing. I'm still praying for it and pursuing it as faithfully as I can. God is in control, but I'm still responsible for taking faithful action. Most days, even though I'm pursuing healing, I'm willing to see this body as an opportunity, rather than something to be embarrassed of or something holding me back. Because I've watched God use it, even through my frustration, to make the story He's writing more powerful than the one that I had planned. I held baseball in a place that competed for God's place in my life. And when it was gone, I blamed my body for stealing who I was. I thought my body stole my identity, but in reality, God was using it to replace my identity with His. Hey, if you got anything from this video, I really appreciate the support, and I would love if you liked and subscribed. Thank you, and God bless you. Stay steadfast.